Hi, YouTube family. This is Ebony, and I am back with a fresh and new word from the Lord. Before we get into the message, you guys, I encourage you to go back and test the spirit behind this word before receiving it. Even if you are not yet in the season of marriage and you just want to tune in, you still want to make sure that you are testing the word, all right? Always, all right? And this is for new and, people who have been following me over time, all right? With that being said, I do want to, give you guys the topic that I'm coming from, and this is also a kingdom word, all right, for kingdom marriages, all right. So the Lord normally does not give me words often about kingdom marriages, but this is what he is leading me to talk about and teach today, all right. Many of you are standing and interceding for your marriages, all right, for your spouses, all right. This is also a word for both male and female, all right. So wherever you stand in it, this is for both, both counterparts, all right. And so with that being said, God wants us to, and he made it so clear to me, today, and I just, was filled with pure joy, all right, because we sit there and we are waiting on God to do something in our lives, all right, and what appears to be taking too long is not long in God's eyes, all right, because he's a God that works in eternal, all right, meaning that he's an eternal God, all right, so he works in eternity, all right, so he does not work in time, all right, or our time, so he knows exactly the right time when to bring something forward in our lives, all right, and he's just somebody you want to trust with your life, all right. And so with that being said, what he taught me today is that it doesn't matter how long that we wait. What's important is that we wait, all right, because there's a fullness and there's a reward for those who are truly, truly dependent on God, all right, and fulfilling his promises. Many of you already know what your vision is. You already know who your kingdom spouses are. You already know all of that, all right. Now you're just waiting, for the manifestation of those things to come into play, all right, that marriage that he has promised you, all right. And so I am here to encourage those who are in this position right now where, again, you may even be getting a little weary hearted, all right, because you're like, okay, God, when, all right, and this is what God wants us to not do, is be so focused on the when and the how, but focus on what God is doing, all right, instead, meaning what he has already got you, doing now, all right, because if you are focused on what he has you to be doing now, I'm telling you, the time is going to fly. You're not going to even know how long you've been waiting, all right. And this is again uh uh the benefits of again, just resting in him, all right. When you rest in God, there's a peace that surpasses all understanding, all right, meaning you live your day in a peaceful and restful state, all right. You're not worried, you're not shaken, you're not moved by anything, all right. You just know that, well, God said it, so that settles it, all right. So it's just pretty much you waiting for God to do what only he can do in your life, all right, and that's to bring that promise to pass. And so this is where I come in at, you guys, to encourage you, to empower you, to make sure that you do not give up, all right, because again, the wait is a little bit too hard. God is the restorer of time, all right, and if he said that he's going to do something, you better believe he's going to do it, and he's going to surpass your expectations, all right. Okay, and so with that being said, let's get into it, all right. Ruth chapter 4 is what we're working out of, and I believe we're going to work our way through the whole entire chapter, all right, because it's not a very long chapter, all right. It's very short, all right, and I don't see the need to do a series with it, all right. So it's just going to be one teaching, all right, one whole teaching, all right. New King James Version is what I'm coming from. If anything changes, I say this in my videos a lot as well, I will let you guys know, because again, if I'm really trying to get y'all to understand something, I think it's good to use different translations, all right, but right now I'm okay at the New King James, all right. So let's get started, all right. All right. Now Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there, and behold, the close relative of whom Boaz had spoken came by. So Boaz said, "Come aside, friend, sit down here." So we came aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, sit down here. So they sat down. Then he said to the close relative Naomi, who has come back from the country of Moab, sold the piece of land which belonged to our brother Elimelech. And I thought to inform you, saying, buy it back in the presence of the inhabitants and the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, redeem it. But if you will not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know, for there is no one but you to redeem it, and I am next after you. And he said, I will redeem it. Then Boaz said, on the day you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you must also buy it from Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance. And the close relative said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I ruin my own inheritance. You redeem my right of redemption for yourself, for I cannot redeem it. Now, this was the custom in former times in Israel concerning redeeming and exchanging to confirm anything. One man took off his sandal and gave it to the other, and that was a confirmation in Israel. Therefore, the close relative said to Boaz, buy it for yourself. So he took his sandal. And Boaz said to the elders and all the people, you are witnesses this day that I have brought all that was Elimelech's and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's from the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the widow of Mahlon, I have acquired as my wife to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance, that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brethren and from his position at the gate. You are witnesses this day. And all the people who were at the gate and the elders said, we are witnesses. The Lord make the woman who was coming to your house like Rachel and Leah, the two who built the house of Israel. And may you prosper in Ephrathah and be famous in Bethlehem. May your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah, because of the offspring which the Lord will give you from this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And when he went into her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. Then, the women said to Naomi, blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a close relative, and may his name be famous in Israel, and may he be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you, who is better to you than 7 sons, has borne him. Then Naomi took the child and laid him on her bosom and became a nurse to him. Also the neighbor women gave him a name, saying, there is a son born to Naomi, and they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Now this is a genealogy of Perez. Perez begot Hezron. Hezron begot Ram, and Ram begot Amminadab. Amminadab begot Nahshon, and Nahshon begot Salmon. Salmon begot Boaz, and Boaz begot Obed. Obed begot Jesse, and Jesse begot David. All right? And that is the end of the chapter. See, it wasn't too long. All right? It wasn't. So, Boaz gathered 10 elders and the kinsman redeemer to settle the matter of redeeming Ruth. All right? Ruth needed someone to step up and redeem her. All right? Boaz made it clear first to the closer relative that there was land that needed to be brought back. And the closer relative agreed to buy the land. So what Boaz did was he first introduced to this closer relative that was actually, the first, to, claim Ruth before Boaz. All right. He came and he sat down. He gathered 10 elders, including the guy that was the nearer kinsman redeemer to Ruth. All right. And so he sat down with the man and he said, look, he said, there's some land that needs to be brought. But the way that he did it was strategic. All right. He first brought up the land. All right. Because this was a test. All right. A test of his heart. All right. This nearer kinsman redeemer's heart. All right. So he presented the land first and say, hey, there's land that needs to be brought back. All right. And so verses 5 through 8. I'm sorry. Then Boaz said, on the day you buy the field, all right? So before I even go, forward, the man agreed, all right? The nearer kinsman redeemer, not Boaz, he actually agreed to take the land, all right? And so this is what, Boaz wanted him to do, all right? He wanted him to, again, take the land. So now in verse 5 of Ruth, all right, then Boaz said, on the day you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you must also buy it from Ruth, the Moabitess, all right, the wife of the dead, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance, all right? And the close relative said, I cannot redeem it for myself lest I ruin my own inheritance, all right? You redeem my right of redemption for yourself, for I cannot redeem it. Now this was the custom in former times in Israel concerning redeeming in exchange, and to confirm anything, one man took off his sandal and gave it to the other. And this was a confirmation in Israel. So Boaz ended up, again, allowing it to be known that there was land to be brought. Then once he agreed, all right, this nearer kinsman agreed to taking the land, he also let him know that there was a responsibility, upon him taking this land, all right? He had to also marry Ruth, all right? And that was his responsibility. He had to redeem her and, take care of her. All right. And so once he realized, oh, I got to do that, he was like, I'm not about to mess up what I got going on. All right. So yeah, you take my right as the redeemer and you take it for yourself. All right. And so once he said that, all right, this is, where, things get, a little, juicy. All right. So after Boaz told the kinsman redeemer that the land he brought back in verse 4, the closer relative agreed to buy the land. And verse 5, Boaz goes to say that if the closer relative brought the land of Naomi, that he would also have to, take on Ruth. All right. This was his responsibility, all right, of that land, to also, marry Ruth so that they could keep, the lineage alive. All right. Their family lineage, because at this time, before Ruth was redeemed, all right, Naomi and Ruth, they came, from a broken place, all right. Elimelech, which was, I think, Naomi's husband, Mahlon, Chilion, again, was Naomi's sons, all right. And so Ruth was, married to, I believe it might have been Mahlon, don't quote me, all right. But her husband was, again, Naomi's son, all right. And both sons died, all right. So they came from a really dark and broken place, all right. They lost everything. Naomi lost everything, all right. And it, left her very, very empty and bitter, all right. And so, Boaz presented the land to the closer relative first because it would test the heart of the closer relative, and this is what Boaz's strategy revealed. All right, his heart was on what he could gain from having the land. All right, he loved the inheritance that he had more than taking on the responsibility as a kinsman redeemer. So many of you all's kingdom spouses, all right, in this season, there's a, separation that first has to, start, all right. And that is, again, you have to cut off communication. You have to cut off everything, all right. Because at this point in time, if they're connected to you in any kind of way, this makes them still comfortable with, again, feeling like they don't have to, do what is necessary to take on the responsibility of being, you being redeemed. All right. And I'm talking either this is a male or female perspective. You may be a male who is waiting for a female that God has promised you. All right. And they may be in a place, and I'm talking right now to people who already know who their spouses is, all right? And they're dragging their feet, they're doing whatever, all right? They got their own stuff going on, they got distractions and all of that stuff in their lives going on, all right? And so right now they're not really, okay with, taking on, full responsibility, all right? They like where they are, all right? And so just like this nearer kinsman, redeemer, all right? He was like, you take it, because I'll mess up my own inheritance if I take this land and have to marry her. All right. And so just listen to me, y'all. So what has to happen is that, there has to be a clean break. All right. So what God has to do with some of these spouses is they have to remove any obstacles or any hindrances that again could affect their decisions. All right. Their decisions to choose you. All right. Or to even make a sound decision, at that, to choose you in the first place. All right. Because again, if you got distractions and all of that stuff going around, and you have to make a decision. A lot of times, if God is not in it, people end up making the wrong decisions for themselves. And what happens is they marry the wrong person, all right, based on the wrong things, all right, and it ends in divorce, all right. And so if you got God in it, what God is doing is removing all distractions, moving all obstacles and hindrances in your spouse's life so that they can clearly have sound minds to be able to make a sound decision. All right. This is also a space where they have to be willing to choose you. All right. So this is again God giving them the will, the free choice to choose if they're going to choose you or not. If not, then God is going to raise up another man, or he's going to raise up another woman, all right, to take the place that they refuse to redeem. All right. And so the very important thing about this, though, and that's why I say, you guys, you do not have to worry, because a lot of times if there's kids involved, all right, God is going to deal with the matter. All right. But he's going to deal with it in a way where, again, truth is presented. All right. If there's truth, then they have to make a sound decision based on what is right and what they know to be true. All right. But if they got a whole bunch of voices in their head, bunches of distractions, a lot of times they have been and choose wrong or didn't choose you at all, because again, their minds are clouded with all kinds of garbage. All right. Their lives is filled with things that again keeps them preoccupied and makes them again neglect responsibility, as some of them may be doing right now. All right. And so what you have to do is allow God to make a clear separation between you and that person. All right. And let him again deal with the matter. All right. In the meantime, your life has to keep moving forward. All right. You cannot wrap your worth around somebody who is indecisive. All right. Somebody who is again dragging their feet. All right. To redeem you or to marry you. All right. We can't afford that. All right. We can't afford to attach our worth to people who don't, can't make up their mind. All right. So with that being said, if they couldn't make up their mind, all right, keep moving forward. All right. And let God deal with that. Give them over to God. All right. Because if God has them, you don't have to worry about it. All right. You don't have to worry about it. Just pray. Keep praying for them. All right. But don't put your life on hold. All right. Waiting for somebody to come around. Don't put your life on hold, wondering in your own mind, like, okay, what is they doing? Or when is they going to, pop the question, or when they going to do this? You cannot focus on any of that. You have to focus on what God is doing in your own life. All right. Because many of you are walking into a season of abundance. All right. Many of you have already stepped into it. And so if you so focus on the timing, you kind of, dull the moment of what God is bringing you into. All right. Enjoy where you are now, because I know many of you are experiencing a peace that you never know. All right. Let that be what that is. All right. Stay in that peace and just keep going. All right. Keep going and moving forward. All right. So back to this. So once, the guy, the nearer kinsman redeemer ended up rejecting this, this land, and also Ruth. All right. Now it's a sandal that, something that they do, or excuse me, they did back, in Bible times. All right. Where the way that they confirm things, they use a sandal. All right. They took off their sandal and they gave, the person a sandal. And this again was to stamp like, okay, this is full separation, of, this person being ever able to, redeem this, again. All right. So this was again protecting the marriage between Boaz and Ruth, and also keeping it, keeping things from, keeping the person, that actually rejected it from ever coming back and saying, no, I want, I now want it back again. I want to buy the land and redeem such and such. They won't be able to do that. That's what that sandal represents. They won't, once they have, sat there and said, you know what, just like this kinsman redeemer did, you know what, go ahead and redeem what was supposed to be mine for yourself, because I don't want to mess up what I have going on. That was that person's decision, all right? And so again, this is for people again who are still waiting, again for their spouse, all right? And they have to make this decision, all right? So with that being said, if they choose not to choose you, what happens is they can't ever come back and say, you know what, I changed my mind, I'm going to go ahead and redeem you, all right? This is again a serious and crucial, again, time, and this is why it's important that God has given your spouses the right to choose, all right? What are they going to do, all right? And this period that you are going to have to wait, gives them nothing but space and time. And while they're again, still contemplating, dragging their feet and hesitating, God is still presenting truth to them so that they understand and know what they're doing. Because if they choose wrong, all right, they're going to have to feel the weight of losing you, all right? They're going to have to feel the weight that comes along with choosing you, all right? And so with that being said, God has to move every distraction, everything possible out of the way so that they can truly, truly sit with themselves, all right? And figure out, do I want to do this, or do I want to, step aside and let the next person do it? All right. I hope you guys are with me. I know it's lengthy. I know it's a lot, y'all, but I'm trying to explain it in ways that you guys, again, you understand and that you rest. All right. As you are in your season of waiting for them. All right. Or not waiting for them. I'm sorry. Waiting for God to manifest what he's promised you. Okay. All right. So after Boaz told the closer redeemer that there was land to be brought back in verse 4, the closer relative agreed to buy the land. In verse 5, Boaz goes on to say that if the closer relative brought the land off of Naomi, that he would also have to buy the land from Ruth and marry her to keep the family lineage alive. This is when the closer relative began to back down. He backed down because he wanted the land and not the responsibility that came with it. And this is again where a lot of you kingdom spouses, mindsets are, all right? They love the idea of you, all right? They love the potential that comes with you. They want access to you, all right? But they don't want the duty of loving you. All right. And so this is again why there has to be a separation, because they have to either come up with a decision to choose you, again, as I stated before, or to not choose you. All right. But what people not going to do is try to, again, put other people's lives, on hold. All right. Because again, they can't decide. All right. And so this cutting, off and separating y'all, all right, is going to bring them into a decision. All right. And once they make that decision, then you guys can move forward, all right? But until then, you guys, I encourage you, don't be so focused on them. Be focused on God and what God has you to do in this season, because many of you, again, God has already given you plenty to do in this season, all right? But if you are so fixated and stuck on them, it'll keep you stagnant, all right? Stagnant on what you're supposed to do, all right? So make sure that you are keeping yourself productive, that you're making sure that you're keeping yourself busy, all right? As you are in this, moment of separation between you and your spouses, all right? Okay. And if you guys hear me, hear anything in the background, I stay on a busy street, so it's people being loud, talking, but we still gonna get it done, all right? All right. So with that being said, Boaz presented the land, all right, to the closer relative first, because we already did that, so we're not gonna do that again. Applications I want to give you guys. And if I seem like I'm all over the place, that's because I kind of am. Because when I tell y'all, I be jotting these notes down, making sure that I get everything. Sometimes I do it so fast that I repeat stuff on here. So please bear with me, all right? I'm working on that. All right. So the applications that I have is God is presenting truth before your kingdom spouses and testing the hearts of them. This is the final stretch, you guys, of marriage season. This is a place where kingdom spouses must make a decision to choose you or give their rights over to another person to take their place. All right. Kingdom spouses are being completely stripped of what hinders their decisions so that their decisions to choose what he has ordained is not mixed or distorted. This will either drive them to accountability or avoidance. All right. This will be the marker of the final decision that is made between you and who he has promised for you. All right. Ruth 9 through 12. All right. We're going down. And Boaz said to the Elders and all the people, you are witnesses this day that I have brought all that was Elimelech's and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's from the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the widow of Mahlon, I have acquired as my wife to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance, that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brethren and from his position at the gate. You are witnesses this day. And all the people were at the gate. And the elders said, we are witnesses. The Lord make the woman who is coming to your house like Rachel and Leah. The two built the house of Israel. And may you prosper in Ephrathah and be famous in Bethlehem. All right. May your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah, because offspring which the Lord will give you from this young woman. All right. And so Boaz brought back the land, that Naomi, sold. All right. And took Ruth to be his wife. He did it before the elders and the people of the community. There had to be a witness to witness this for the purpose of security and protection of Ruth and, Boaz's, marriages. All right. So, a marriage has to be publicly known, you guys. Publicly declaring a marriage is essential for establishing firm boundaries, fostering accountability, and securing the community support necessary for a relationship to thrive. Furthermore, you guys, it ensures legal, financial, and medical protections for both partners while providing a secure foundation for the children. All right. This is for those who like to elope. All right. Eloping is not, God's way. All right. It has to be publicly known. So even if you don't have this huge wedding, which it does not require that, I don't really expect no huge wedding. All right. I don't, just have, family, if possible, a couple of family members, a minister, and let that be it. All right. But there has to be, a public, thing where people know that you guys are a union. All right. Eloping because you don't want other people in your affairs, or the people who love you, you don't want people knowing that you're marrying certain individuals because, again, of what they may think or whatever the case is. All right. None of that should matter. It still should be a public thing. All right. Where people witness, because say for instance things happen, and a spouse passes on. All right. Because you chose to elope, there's not much support there. All right. And so what happens is a lot of times, fight struggles, with, who gonna get this and who gonna get that, begin to happen, and it causes conflict, and all kinds of stuff when you don't do things God's way. All right. And so just again, even if it's not a huge wedding where you spending 20,000, all right, for one day, all right, and it's just a regular, wedding, just let it be that. All right. But make sure that you got enough people around you to support it. All right. And that's just, what I'm just putting out there. Okay. All right. So when a marriage is hidden, it lacks witness, as I was, kind of saying, you guys. If the couple faces a crisis later, they have no community to turn to for help, no mentors, elders to guide them, and no external accountability, keeping them true to their vows. It leaves the marriage isolated and highly vulnerable. This is why things eloping is not ideal, but Ruth 4 shows the order in which preparing for marriage should be. It's biblical way. All right. So Boaz, Mary, and Ruth broke a generational cycle, meaning the cycle of grief, brokenness, and barrenness ended with them. All right. This is why it is so important to have kids within marriages. All right. Because having babies outside of marriages create a cycle of broken homes. All right. And kids suffer greatly from it. Generational curses can only be broken if someone is willing to step in and take responsibility for what is broken. All right. And so many of you have kids involved. All right. With these Lord Jesus, with these kingdom spouses. All right. And so it is very crucial, all right, that they take on this responsibility, because again, if they don't, it brings a divide, all right, within the family. And so if at any, case, God has to, raise up another person to take another person's place that, refuses to redeem you, it still secures your children. All right. And I'm talking specifically to those who are really following God, who is in a covenant relationship with him, because this is what it only works for. All right. People who are literally walking with him. All right. And so if that happens to be the case, and again, the spouse that God has for you refuses you, all right, your children's future will still be secure, meaning the brokenness ends with them. All right. Meaning they won't have to enter, again, life. And even if they're already here, they still grow up. All right. They won't have to go through again their fathers, that refused, all right, to, redeem the family had to go through. I hope you guys are with me. All right. And so with that being said, it's very important that these spouses, choose, all right, their family, all right, because again, there's a lot of children who are connected, again, to these marriages, all right, that God is bringing together, all right, and so they have to, all right, this is what bridges the gap, all right, and causes there again for sin. It can no longer dwell within the family or bloodline, all right, because the father steps in, that man steps in, all right, and closes it, all right, and then any baby or children that you choose to have within that marriage, they become again blessed, they become free, that sin is not attached to them coming into, the world through disobedience. All right, I hope you guys are following me with that. It's a very huge and big deal, you guys. All right, and again, I'm not saying this for you guys to worry, because again, God's word has to come back to him fulfilled. All right, it cannot come back void. All right, God cannot fail when he sit there and he gives you a vision and a plan for your life. Everything that he speaks cannot return. It has to come to pass. All right, but what I am saying to you all is that by any chance you feel yourself in this space right now where you're losing hope, all right, because you got people who are dragging their feet, they feel, like it seems like they're decisive about choosing you in the first place, all right, don't worry about that. And like I said before earlier in this message, don't attach your worth, all right, or let your world stop because somebody is indecisive about choosing you, all right, because surely God is going to do it if he has to bring up somebody again who will love you, and also those especially who have children, involved. He'll find somebody, raise somebody up to raise your children, all right, and to be just like a father to them, all right. And so I just really want you guys to get that in your minds, all right. Do not worry, all right. But what you better not do is allow people to sit there and cause your life to come to a standstill because you're so worried about them choosing you. All right. Keep moving. Don't let nobody sit there and dictate how your life goes or the direction it goes because they're undecisive. All right. And I'm just going to, stop there. All right. Keep going. All right. And please forgive me if y'all hear this music. It didn't start until I started this video, and I'm going to still put it out. So you guys, I hope that you, forgive all of that in the background. All right. But it's going to keep on moving forward. All right. Because I'm not stopping. All right. So Boaz, Mary, and Ruth broke generational cycles, meaning the cycle of greed, brokenness. Okay, so generational curses can only be broken if someone is willing. So I said that, as I said again, you guys, I keep repeating it. So let me move forward. Ruth and Boaz's marriage was blessed because they had a community of people who could back them and speak life into their marriage. They blessed the marriage by speaking abundance of fruitfulness, and in the marriage, a marriage that is secret is harder for people to support because they never witness it. All right. And so I spoke on that. So we're just going to drop down and I'm going to give you guys the applications for this. Let God make your marriage public. All right. A public marriage where there are witnesses is God's way. All right. You have to have witnesses. All right. Who are witnessing your marriage. All right. And so in this last stretch season, there has to be a moment of stillness, all right, where again, you can't be reaching out to them. You can't unblock them if you have them blocked on certain, platforms. You can't unlock them checking in on their life, all right. You can't keep checking the kitchen, all right. That's what some people say, all right. Worrying about did God get them yet, or did God, get to them, None of that matters, all right, but what God has you doing, all right? And so make sure that you're not doing this, all right, because that will drag things out too, because you're still, again, focused on what they're doing instead of what God is calling you to do, all right? So allow God to remove obstacles in your person's life, all right, that could cause future problems in the marriage He is preparing for you, all right? Let me say it again. Allow God to remove obstacles in your person's life that could cause future problems in the marriage He is preparing for you. So many of your spouses may, again, God may have to go, in their lives and clear out some things. There may be the wrong people that are in their lives that could be bad influences on them, all right, that causes them, again, to interfere with the marriage, and so you just want God to just, let God work on your spouses, okay? Um, Understand that God has to present truth to your spouses so that they are able to make a sound decision in choosing you. It is possible that some spouses may reject the marriage and responsibility. I don't know why I can't say responsibility. Responsibility that comes along with you. And that, that's just, again, something that you have to, understand. All right. They have to be willing to choose you. You can't force nobody to be with you. Okay. They have to want it for themselves. All right. And if they really love you, they'll choose you anyway. All right. And if they don't, you see that the love was never real. All right. But what you will not do, you guys, is sit there and base their decisions based, your worth, rather. Don't base even your worth on, again, them not choosing you, if that happened to be the case, all right? But with God, you don't have to worry about it, all right? Because all God is going to do in the lives of your spouses is only present the truth, all right? Knowing the truth is what's going to set a lot of them free to the bondage, the illusions that they, were under, all of this stuff, all right? Because a lot of times, again, a life that is not surrendered to God, I'm telling you, all you living in is just deception. All right. So whatever you thought the person, was to you, all right. And I'm talking about those who God is working on, the spouses that God is working on, it's not until He takes the veil off your eyes, all right, what blinded you, all right, that you see life and realities for what it is, all right. You can, talk to people until they blue in the face. But again, if they are fixated on misunderstanding you, if they're fixated on, again, on just believing that they're in the right, all right, while everybody else is in the wrong, all right, it comes a time where a separation needs to be had so that they can see truth for really what it is. Because if you are in their lives at any point, a lot of times it keeps them from seeing what they need to see. All right. And keeps them from, again, feeling the weight of their decisions as well. All right. We sit there, loving. I know for me, I love everybody. All right. At least I try to show love to everybody. All right. And so, I'll sit there, and I'm willing to be open, with people, but, until they give me a reason not to. All right. But then when I feel like, okay, you being funny. All right. Then I have to, enforce some things myself. All right. To let people know I give you space in my life because I want you there. All right. But if I don't want you there, then you won't be there. All right. And that's what people, fail to understand with me. I am a person, like I said to you guys a moment ago, I'll let anybody, have a chance, that I feel like I can trust. All right. And I'll let people prove themselves, all right, until they prove to me otherwise, all right? But then once you prove to me that you either can't be trusted or, again, you're playing games with me, all right? If I find out either or, all right, I'm going to show you that, I love you, all right? I care about you. And I'm talking about friendship and whoever, and romantic wise too, all right? I care about you. I love you, but I will totally move on without hesitation because I know what I bring to the table. All right. I know the kind of friend I can be. I know the kind of lover I can be to that person that God calls me to be with. All right. I know it. All right. So on that person got to get, with the program and knowing, I don't want to mess this up. All right. Because I may not find this person, another person like her no more. All right. Look, I don't mean to make this about me, but I just really want to help the women out there, all right? Because, you know, I've been through the mud when it came to just relationships, period. And if God ever gives me a chance, all right, to make a series about relationships, y'all, I could give y'all some stuff, all right? Because I've been through a number. I've been through the mud, all right, with people just in general, being in relationships, all right? And I really had to learn the hard way when it came to, men, all right? And how they operate, how they move. And then I had to learn, self-respect, self-love through being treated like crap. All right. And so you got to know what you bring to the table. All right. When you know what you bring to the table, you make people understand what they missing out on. All right. When they sit there and think that they can just do you any old kind of way. All right. When you know who you are, all right, you pick your head up and you keep moving forward and you leave whoever behind. All right. And let them see, look, and it's not to say that nobody is a prize. Everybody is a prize. God sees us all as precious. All right. But when you got people who are fixated again on misunderstanding you, mistreating you, or making you feel like, oh, I'll wait to drag my feet on this, especially people who sitting there letting people drag them along 20 years in a relationship. 30 years in a relationship. I couldn't even do 6. All right. I'll give you 3. All right. And to me, 3 years is still too long. All right. Because men know who they can marry and who they can't. All right. And so you gotta enforce things. All right. To let people know you can't treat me like that. You can't do me like that. All right. Or else I'm going to be gone. All right. Period. All right. And that's for somebody. All right. Let me give y'all these applications. Let God make your marriage public. A public marriage where there's witnesses God's way. In this last stretch, okay, I said that already. You have to make sure that, you're okay with knowing that, we have to give them a chance to choose, all right? Allow God to remove obstacles in their way that, keeps them from making sound decisions, all right? Understand that God has to present truth to your spouses so that they are able to make a sound decision in choosing you. It is possible that it is possible that some spouses may reject marriage and responsibility that comes along with you, right? And so, and that's okay. You're not for everybody, and that's how I see myself. I'm not for everybody. All right. And this could be in a romantic way or friendship way. All right. I know who can, deal with me. All right. I know, who is for me, who's not. All right. And so when you know that, you respect that. All right. You respect that if people don't really rock with you like that, they don't rock with you like that. All right. And that's just, that. All right. Ruth 13 and 16. I also want to say this too, during the separation, it's not just, again, for those that God has promised you to, be able to, make a sound decision about you, but this is also preparing you too, all right, just in case, all right, if things don't work out. Just, keep in mind how long there has been a period of separation between you and that person. All right. That was enough time for you to get in a position where you are stable enough and you're prepared to walk away and keep moving just in case things don't work out. All right. And this is the purpose of divine separation. All right. It gives a person more than enough time to choose on what they're going to do. All right. And so as there, people sitting there dragging their feet and doing what you work on you. All right. Work on being strengthened in God. All right. So if again, and I'm saying if, all right, this is not again, me, making a guarantee that God is not going to, come through because he will. All right. But what I am saying, you always have to be prepared for what ifs anyway. Okay. And so as you are waiting, strengthen yourself in God. So just in case, all right, a person say, well, or God comes to you and say, yeah, they chose to go their own separate ways. You pick your head up high and you keep moving. All right. You keep moving. Yes, it's not to say that you may not feel a certain way or why, if that was the case, why they didn't choose you. All right. But this is why, it pays to spend time with yourselves, all right, and to start learning how to love yourselves before you can love some man or woman. All right. Because when you learn how to love yourselves, all right, you can love somebody very dearly. All right. But you love yourself so much that you choose yourself every time. All right. Over what people, choose to give you, whether that's breadcrumbs or whatever the case is. All right. But you learn over time, like, as you spend time with yourself, that, I don't have to tolerate that. I don't have to deal with that. All right. And you, over time, I'm telling you, you develop this intolerance, this, I don't know. It's a word that I'm trying to, you just have this endurance. I don't even know if I want to call it endurance. It's something that a word that I'm trying to pull out, and I cannot, get, remember it. But if I do, it'll come out as I'm still, going forward in this message. But I'm telling you, that's how it happened with me. You have to get tired of people just, taking advantage of you. All right. Mistreating you. All right. Especially when you're doing all the porn. All right. You're pouring and people ain't doing the same for you. All right. If you've gone through that enough, I'm telling you, you get to a point in your life where you say enough is enough. I'm not doing that no more. All right. And it gives you a stamina. All right. A strength where, you get to a point where you start, just say for instance, you start dating people. All right. And you observing in the first few months of the relationship, all right, and you begin to see, what, yeah, this person does this. You start really separating what you can tolerate and what you cannot tolerate from a person. All right. You can actually, when you spend time with yourself, all right, long enough to heal and do all of that stuff, and you get into a relationship, you start seeing, no, that ain't gonna work for me. All right. And that's how it was with me, if I could be honest. The last, dealings I had, with someone, I knew I wasn't supposed to be, dealing with them. I knew it, but I loved them. All right. I cared, and so, and still do. All right. If I can be honest with y'all, I still care about this person, but what I'm trying to, express is that, anybody, and this is not just, friendship, you can't come into my life and just, think that in control. All right. If I come into your life, trust me, you have a lifetime friend. All right. And even if it's in a romantic way, where, I'm married, of course, to somebody, you have also a great lover in me. All right. A person that is willing to, again, love you like Christ loves me. All right. And what you're not going to do is feed me breadcrumbs. All right. When I am pouring all that I know into you, you're not going to do that, and so, to be with me, you got to be challenged. All right. You got to be challenged to grow. And if you're not willing to grow, I love you. Okay. But I'm about to keep moving. All right. And this is how it has to be. It be hard. All right. It be hard to move forward when you love somebody so much. But if you don't choose you're going to just keep showing people how you want to be treated. All right. Especially if you're not, setting standards and enforcing things. All right. You got to teach people how to treat you and let them know, look, if this is all you got for me, I'm just going to keep on moving. All right. And I'm done. I'm sorry, y'all. All right. So Boaz, this is Ruth verse 13 through 16. So Boaz took Ruth and she became his wife. And when he went into her, the Lord gave her conception and she bore a son. Then the woman said to Naomi, blessed be the Lord who has not left you. Ooh, excuse me, you guys. This day without a close relative, and may his name be famous in Israel, and may he be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves, who is better to you than 7 sons, has borne him. Then Naomi took the child and laid him on her bosom and became a nurse to him. So there was a child that was born through this union named Obed. All right. And so when we have been waiting for God for so long for something, we tend to feel like God has forgotten us. All right. But if we hold on to God's promise, we shall see the goodness of God, all right, in our lives. And so, again, many of you are going to come out once these promises come, all right, and have, babies, all right, covenant babies, all right, where they are totally blessed, all right. free from, again, the power of sin, because you've done it within a ordained marriage. All right. That was ordained by God. All right. It is so wonderful. I'm telling you, if you could, allow God to bring a union together, all right, where you're able to produce kids that, again, don't have to suffer through the things, because this is what happens when we sit there and we birth kids out of wedlock, all right, and we birth kids out of disobedience, all right. All we doing is passing along the things that we had to grow up suffering with. We're passing it along to our children. And if we don't get saved by Christ, all right, what happens is that we allow our children to birth children, and they're walking in this same old broken cycle, all right, where there's broken homes, all right. Kids are suffering because nobody is coming together, to allow God to come in to help bridge the gap, to keep brokenness from spreading. All right. Because this is what happens. You sit there and you see it every single day. You got two couples that sit there and start off, being together. They get, pregnant. All right. And then somehow the relationships breaks up. All right. And then they're leaving their partner to raise the baby alone. All right. That ain't no coincidence. All right. It's because, again, you didn't bring God into it. All right. When you bring God into something, this is how things, don't break. All right. This is how unity, stands. All right. Is when God is in the middle. But when you sit there and you're creating relationships and you're creating babies with people you're not even married to, you're creating a horrible cycle. I sit there, and especially celebrities, all right? Nick Cannon, all right? Sorry, Nick Cannon. I'm like, if you ever, watch this, I'm sorry. That is just outrageous to me, to have so many kids, all right? You can't even stay in the same household as all your kids, all right? Because they all in different households. I mean, stuff like that. It's horrible, all right? It makes the children suffer. It doesn't matter that you see them every day. You come over there and visit them. You take them out and do, they need to be in a family unit where it's you, the mom, and the children, all right? But you're sitting there laying down with this person, laying down with that person, laying down with this person, sowing your oats, all right, to just any old body and everybody, all right? Just creating a horrible dynamic for your children, all right? And so now when your children get old enough, if you don't walk with God, all right, to help him fix this, which, again, I mean, you didn't have so many, all right? And I ain't talking about Nick Cannon no more. I'm just talking about people in general now, all right, who have so many babies. I have a father. From what I know, I got about 38 brothers and sisters, all right? I ain't met, all right? I'll say I probably met about 6 of them, 7 of them in my entire life, all right? And so that's just ridiculous, all right? So, he has so many kids that he ain't have enough time, all right, for me, all right, or my brother, all right, who is no longer with me no more, all right? And so it's just, it's that, all right? I really have a problem with that, seriously, for myself, all right? I can't, vouch for everybody else when it comes to how they choose to live, but what I can say is that it's unhealthy. All right. And it is so unfair for the children, all right, to have to suffer through our mistakes because we want to lay down and get laid. All right. Because we need, again, to be stimulated. All right. Or penetrated, rather. All right. That we're not even thinking about the future of the kids that we birth into this world. All right. Because we want to sit there and get this feeling that, or whatever, off, or whatever it is, whatever reasons people feel like they just have to be, again, God created sex, all right, but he created it within a marriage context, all right? And so it's not that sex is bad. It's bad when, again, you're not bringing him into it and you're not, again, in a marriage, all right? It brings corruption, y'all, all right? That's what I'm saying. It brings corruption. It messes up people. It messes up children before they can even get to a proper age, all right? They don't know how to have a structure on, or they don't have a structure on how to, build a family, all right? Because, again, people are sitting there having babies, all right? Just, for no reason, all right? And I'm just going to leave it there. All right, application. Expect to birth children from a covenant marriage, those who are looking to have children from the union God is preparing, all right? So, again, many of you are going to again, have children, all right, from this, all right, which is a beautiful thing, all right, because again, when God is in it, all right, your womb is blessed, all right, your children are blessed, all right. And I want to talk to those as well, people who have already had children. You're walking with God, or whatever, and you may be worried, that, well, since I had this baby out of wedlock, will God, uh, reverse? Yes, he will. He'll redeem your children. All right. He will redeem them. He will clean up whatever is in their lives. All right. Because also, let me say that too, again, I'm specifically talking to people who have children with their kingdom spouses. All right. If you had, the child, or children, all right, out of wedlock, all right, and, out of disobedience, all right, what God does before he brings you and that partner back together is he breaks off anything, generational within your children, all right? So he makes it right, all right? So once you do come together in union with that person that you've had children with, all right, what God does is he bridges that gap, all right? Meaning that even the child that you had outside of him, future is secured, all right? So then once that happened, and then you birth children within the covenant, also their lives are blessed, all right? Meaning you're paving something beautiful for your children. You're paving a legacy for your children to follow, all right? When you are in a covenant relationship with God, all right? This is the beauty in having a relationship with Christ, all right? He deals with his people in such a wonderful way, y'all. I mean, it's undescribable, all right? I couldn't even really tell y'all all of the revelation that he has given me about my life, all right? And it's things it's like, what, you can really do that? I'm sitting there saying, and it's not that I don't believe God, but it's just like, really? You just find new things about what God can do, all right? And it just have you just marveled at him, all right? Just in awe, like, really, Lord, you're doing that for me? That kind of thing. All right. So expect your covenant marriage to leave a legacy that is remembered. So you're carrying on a legacy, all right, that can be remembered. The love between you and your spouse is going to carry on for generations, all right? So again, people, your children are going to follow this, all right? And so expect to also have children that God is redeeming, which I just spoke of, and those you birthed in covenant marriage to be raised up to take care of you in your old age. So not only is God raising up, your children and redeeming them, but he's raising them up to also be able to take care of you. All right. In your old age, meaning you don't have nothing to worry about. God is raising young, strong, and mighty men. All right. And women. All right, to raise, not raise you, but, to take care of you in your old age, meaning, God knows what he's doing, y'all. And only if we get in line with his plan for our lives, y'all. I can't even explain it the way I want to, y'all, but it's just, again, you want to be in his will. I said a lot in my videos. You just want whatever God does in your life, you want to be in it. All right. You want to be a part. Trust me. All right. And I'm just going to, leave it at that. All right. So, at the end of this description the end of the description box of this video, I'm going to place, some scriptures that you guys need to meditate on. All right. Meditate on these scriptures and let these be the scriptures that ground you as you are waiting for the manifestation of the promise. All right. Stop focusing on the timing and outcomes of your promises and focus on what God is doing in your life. What appears to be long in our eyes is not in God's eyes. Though it tarries, know that it's coming, you guys. And rest in God and what he said. The vision cannot fail. All right. And so Ruth 17-22. Also, the neighbor women gave him the name, saying, there is a son born to Naomi. And they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Excuse me. Now this is the genealogy of Perez. Perez begot Hezron. Hezron begot Ram. And Ram begot Aminadab. Aminadab begot Nahshon. And Nahshon begot Salmon. Salmon begot Boaz. Boaz begot Obed. Obed begot Jesse. And Jesse begot David. So this is just a genealogy of Jesus, bloodline. All right. All of the Perez was again Jesus' forefather, like a grandfather, his ancestor, all right? And so this is just again the genealogy of, Christ, all right? The family and bloodline that Jesus Christ was born through, all right? And so again, it's just all about generations. God is, a God of, generations, all right? He's wanting to bless generations. He knows what he is doing. And I said this in some of my videos as well, that, he has a plan for each and every last person's life. But what is, the most important is that we jump into that plan, all right? It's up to us, all right? God is not forcing nobody to live for him. He's not forcing them to be a part of the plan that he has for their lives. But I'm telling you, if you're not in his will, you're missing out, all right? And a lot of times people are left behind, or they just perish not ever knowing what God's will for their lives ever was, all right? And so I hope that you guys were blessed by this teaching. I hope that you guys stay encouraged. You continue to move forward, and please keep your heads up, you guys. I don't care how you may feel about the way and why people may be dragging and taking, their time, or whatever the case is, because I know it's a long stretch, all right? I know that you've been waiting for a long time, all right? But God got it, all right? It's in God's hand, all right? And whatever that needs to be done, only God can deal with hearts, all right? And you have to learn to trust, all right, you guys, him with that. Only he knows how to bring a person to their knees, all right? Only God knows how to bring truth to a person that brings them to freedom, all right? And we got to allow God to do that. We can't be the one striving to make things happen, all right, in our time. All right. So with that being said, you guys be blessed, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.